Hey, this is Yang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Emmy Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. Too many women stay stuck in old beliefs, not realizing that they were programmed to think small. But what happens when you take full control of your mind and your life? So I am so excited for Lydia to share her story. She is a cult survivor turned executive coach who built a globally recognized business helping women rewrite their own narratives. Her story on deprogramming, leadership, and personal power will make you question everything. And I just want to share kind of a personal anecdote from this. When I invite her to be in a podcast, she immediately schedules something and just submit the questionnaire right away. And I remember just jumping off and I was like, wow, how do people just get these things done so quickly, no drama, just like effortlessly get these things done. So I'm just like super excited to dive into the stories of how Lydia turned herself into this amazing human being who can just get these things done with light, with ease, and just be able to power through life with that. So Lydia, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey.
Thank you for that beautiful acknowledgement. That was so sweet. That's a wonderful way to start. So thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And I love your mission and what you're talking about and these beautiful stories. And I'm excited to contribute. So I'll give you a little overview of what my immigrant story looks like. I was born in the United States. So I was born and raised in Utah. I'm half Chinese. And the white side of my family was like white all the way back, like 1600s, Ellis Island, like coming over here, and it was just that all the way down. Now, my mother broke the mold, and she was the first person in a long line of white people to decide on marrying somebody who wasn't white and had me. So my dad is Chinese, and it was a big clashing of two worlds. My grandmother was quite unhappy with my mom's choices, that she was not going to have white grandchildren. So I had a lot of internalized racism growing up. But what brought them together was actually the Mormon church. So my dad converted to the Mormon church in Taiwan, and he was a missionary there in Taiwan. My mother was from a long line, like our family on the white side goes all the way back to the beginning of the Mormon church. And she also went on a mission. So they were both very Mormon. My dad moved to Los Angeles. They met, were married very quickly. And it was quite a bad dynamic because of my mom and my grandmother. So within the Mormon church, my mother was in a cult that was run by my grandmother. So my grandmother was a cult leader. I grew up in that cult, and I believed all growing up this idea of the world where there was this band of Satan worshipers that had kidnapped my brother and I and had broken our spine and put needles in our eyes and broken our brain with all sorts of different programming. I grew up in a state of a lot of fear, and I was told that my father was the leader of this band of Satan worshipers that were controlling the world and hurting children. So I was kidnapped from my dad when I was very young. I didn't know him growing up, and I was really scared of Asian people. I was terrified because I was told to be terrified. So lots of weird layers of internalized racism. Wow. And it's been such a joy later in life to connect back to my authenticity. That's a little background of my crazy story.
Wow, Lydia, that's a lot to unpack. And I love that you got to reflect and understand a lot about that and how that robbed you of the joy of getting to know these two different amazing cultures. Tell us a little bit more about the transition out of it, or just even the growth that you had, and be able to deprogram a lot of what you grew up with.
Yeah, it was definitely a dark time. And I think it's a beautiful example. And I celebrate how some of our very darkest times and experiences can turn into our brightest lights and our contributions in the world. And when I found out that the cult story that I grew up with wasn't true, I started finding out the authentic truth about my life. It was a hard thing to find out, but I was really committed to truth. And what I found is that even if you get out of a situation, like you're physically out of a abusive relationship or a cult upbringing or an oppressive religion or whatever it is, even physically leaving, you still carry all of that baggage. And so I really cared about having what we now call in our community an excellent exit, where it's like you're fully gone from the places that you don't want to be in, like mind, heart, body, soul, and all of it. So I was getting my degree in psychology and learning about neuroscience principles. And what I found out was that I was able to create a specific framework for how to work with neuroscience-backed principles and my own brain to not only physically be out of a bad situation, but to really deprogram so that that fear wasn't controlling me anymore and where I could be in my solid authenticity. And it worked. It worked really well. I was able to go to college and graduate summa cum laude and build this incredible career and get married and have a child and all of the things that I thought weren't possible for me. And I thought that that was a cool thing that I discovered just for myself and that I would really never revisit that until later in life, I developed a life-threatening eating disorder. And for years, I had tried everything to be over it. Everything just made it worse. And at a really dark point, I considered that it might not be worth it to keep on living if this was the way that I was going to live. And in that sort of release and giving up and sadness, an idea popped into my head that changed my life and have changed thousands of other lives, which is, what if I could deprogram from my eating disorder, just like I deprogrammed from the cult that I grew up in? And in 1 week, I was completely free of my eating disorder. I've been free ever since. We went on to help another 1,000 women to end their eating disorders. We use these principles to help leaders at Adobe and Disney and National Geographic and do leadership training for the US Army. Like, these principles are so powerful, but it came from that story. So that's the deprogramming piece.
Wow. Thank you so much for the authenticity from your story. There is always that physical danger, the physical stress of being somewhere. But I think a lot of us can relate that just because we now remove physically from that danger, that stress signal, does not mean we are mentally, emotionally, psychologically gone from there, right?
Yeah.
That will keep playing a loop until like you said, deprogram from that and really free yourself. So help us a little bit more. Let's say if somebody is one, right? How do you even recognize if that is something that you're struggling with? Like, how do you even know that you have these emotional, psychological boundary that's still holding you back?
Absolutely. So the principles of how our brain works is that we have thoughts that lead to our actions and emotions. All the emotions and actions that we take, they lead to our decision making, which leads to our results in life.
Okay.
So you can look at the results in life of how you feel or the wealth that you're building or the life that you have or your relationships, and you can trace them back to your actions, which seems clear and obvious, but oftentimes when we want different results in life, we try to change our actions. And it feels like this uphill battle. Like if we've tried to be consistent in something, like I absolutely know what I should do. Why don't I do it? Or I want to build this, but I keep on sabotaging myself.
Yeah.
That is because trying to change our actions directly, our brain is hardwired to resist that. Our brain hates change. Our brain sees change as dangerous. So there will always be this back and forth of why can't I get momentum? What is effective is instead of trying to change our actions, look at the thought patterns that lead to those actions. And when we transform those thought patterns, then the action that matches our goals just becomes effortless. Like that's full freedom. That's just like I just wake up in the morning and sort of automatically do the things that serve me best because the thought patterns are there. So that's one really important point to understand. The other is that we often see that there's something that needs to change, not just because we're not getting the results that we want, but because we don't feel in integrity with how we really want to be in our authenticity. I find especially in the 9,000 people we've coached since 2010 with the people that we've coached that are immigrants or people of color, that oftentimes there is a family of origin culture. These are the things that my family values. And I'm in a bit of a different culture because, you know, I'm first generation or second generation. And I'm realizing that there are things about this other culture that maybe feel more aligned. But now I'm feeling torn between, do I please my parents? Do I make myself happy? So we're feeling this torn state emotionally.
That is a very powerful piece. And it makes a lot of sense because it could really explain how someone can just change their life overnight. And I love what you share also about this different culture. Whether you grow up here or whether you grow up abroad, there's always going to be different pattern that's coming at you. And some of that will not feel aligned with what you want to explore, with what you want to become. So then that becomes an internal conflict that you need to resolve.
Yeah.
So I love that you share that. Tell us a little bit more about what you do to help people change that thought pattern so that they can actually get the result with more ease and freedom in their life.
Yes. So let's look at an example
Yeah.
here. So I grew up in poverty. I remember going to my mom one day and being like, I'm out of toothpaste. And she's like, you need to tell me far in advance. We don't have money for a new toothpaste.
Wow.
As a kid who wanted to be cool and accepted, I didn't have a way to brush my teeth for a long time. Like, that was awful. So I really had that poverty mentality because I grew up in poverty. And I stayed in that poverty mentality until I made a decision that enough is enough. And I'm never going to be able to help the people that I want to help unless I'm okay with making money, because what we're giving is very valuable. We need to be okay with that flow of wealth. Once I changed that and deprogrammed the poverty and rewired the sort of mindset and identity that matched with my goals, we went from having a new company to being in the top 2% of woman-owned businesses globally within just a couple of years. So the reason that this works is that we have multiple parts of our brain that we're working with. We have like our lower brain that is nonverbal, that focuses on keeping us safe, that survival brain. Sometimes you hear it as the lizard brain. Then we have our higher brain, which is our prefrontal cortex. That's the part of our brain that feels more like us, that can delay gratification, that can be consistent in a goal, that can be growing and feel safe in that. Now, that's the difference between our subconscious and our conscious mind. So think of our higher brain of what we're conscious of, and our lower brain that is our subconscious. Now, here is something that's so fascinating and powerful. Our conscious brain, when they measured this at Harvard, our conscious brain brings in 50 bits of information per second, which feels like a lot, right? But there's a lot that we're conscious of. Our subconscious brain brings in per second 11 million bits of information.
That's
so
wild.
Most of our decisions come from that subconscious lower brain because it's the one that's taking in all the information and essentially making our decisions.
Yeah.
The key to make that change is we've got to take what is driving our decisions in our subconscious brain and bring it up to our consciousness, because as soon as we can see it, we can change it. So a big way in how we help people is we look at the result that they're getting that they don't want, that they want to change, and then we trace it back to the thought pattern that's driving that. And then we show people how to see that thought pattern with their conscious brain so they can change it. And we teach them how to do that so it's not just stuck in their subconscious brain where they can't do anything about it because they can't see it. And that is one of the most transformative principles that anyone can have in their life, is how to be able to change those thought patterns in an effective way.
If you don't know that you don't know it, then that will never get changed. So the first piece is be able to uncover what is that thought pattern in your subconscious brain and be able to bring that up so that you are now aware of it. And then the next piece is to consistently recognize, like, hey, this is what my thought is. What is it that I want to think? And then be able to drive the change in your action. That is powerful. As you work with people, what are something that you have find the most effective on helping people either uncover or keeping that change there? And what are some of those pitfalls that you often see that people can fall into as they do this work?
So there's something called Hebb's Law. It's a neuroscience principle. You've probably heard it as what fires together, wires together. So if we are getting the same results that we used to, it's not because we stayed the same. It's because we've recreated the same brain. Our brains are changing all the time. So just like what fires together, wires together, what fires apart, wires apart. And that's why you can intentionally work with your own brain to essentially custom design your thought patterns. People who make $1 million a month and people who don't make anything have different connections in their brain because they're firing and wiring together abundance versus the opposite, right? Okay. Here is a fun little neuro-hack that you can start using right away to see how this process works, because I want you to be able to experience this now. And this is one of the first steps that we teach people, but start practicing this and it's extremely enlightening. So that lower subconscious brain is nonverbal. So if you've ever had the experience of I don't know how to say it, I just know that I feel it, that's because you're trying to give language to something that is in that lower brain. And the lower brain is nonverbal. However, the higher conscious brain is verbal. So I'm speaking right now to you, so I'm using my higher brain. So an incredible way to take charge and leadership of your brain is when you start feeling something uncomfortable, notice the emotion first, and then start talking about what thoughts you're having out loud, because it forces your higher brain to be thinking of it. So if it's just spinning around in your own head, like, I want to invest in myself, I know it's important to build my business to do that, but I just feel so uncomfortable. But if we start saying it out loud, like, okay, I feel uncomfortable, what is my brain saying? We call it the chatter in our community. So the chatter is saying that if I invest in myself and I fail, then people are going to be really disappointed in me and think that I wasted my money. So once we get these thought patterns up to the surface, what you'll find is as you start saying things out loud, you will notice thought patterns that you were totally unaware of. Then from there, with that awareness, you can start making those thought patterns match your goals. So it just becomes effortless, but start having that awareness. And it's a really cool, insightful exercise.
That is a really cool hack. And I can relate to this a lot because sometimes before I make an investment for real estate or when there is fear, right, it feels fuzzy. I just describe it as like a blob because it just feels like this fuzzy brain fog that it just feels full of fears, but it's just fuzzy. And so I love what you share about now verbalizing it, giving it some name. That makes so much sense. Love it. I know you share that, for a lot of women, there's still a lot of programming that is happening. What are some of those most common invisible programs that you see that women are still living under as you work with a lot of people through your program?
A big one that comes up, especially in our executive coaching, is imposter syndrome. And these are women who are high achieving and who have amazing salaries and who contribute so much. And there's still that underlying imposter syndrome. And what's really important to understand is that although we're taught, especially as women, like imposter syndrome is your problem, something wrong with you that you need to figure out, in reality, it is the programming that we receive as women. So for instance, research shows that when men speak more in a meeting, they're seen as leaders and they're respected more. When women speak more in a meeting, they are disliked and disrespected more. Both men and women are like, why is she talking so much? Why is she taking up so much space? Versus when a man does it, it's like, oh, of course, he's a great leader because he's talking so much. So we have these double standards. And the programming that we receive as women is stay small, don't rock the boat, you probably don't belong here. And yes, there is personal and professional development where we can feel a lot more confidence. But a very important piece to own is that we've received the programming like we don't belong here because we've gotten messages that we don't belong here. And to overcome that programming and step into an authentic confidence that is not what someone else gave us and to recognize where that imposter syndrome comes from is really, really powerful. Another big theme that comes up is perfectionism. Here's something to understand about perfectionism. It is not about doing things well. Perfectionism is about delay. Your brain doesn't want you to change, even if it's for the better. So one way that our brain keeps us the same is it says, you're totally going to do this really well tomorrow, later. You should wait till everything's perfect. You probably found this in investing, right? It's like your brain can always say that there's some reason to wait and you should push that off, right?
Yep.
So perfectionism is a big theme, imposter syndrome is a big theme, and just overall as women to be accommodating, people pleasing, don't rock the boat, don't be difficult. And that's not the way that we make positive change, is we make positive change by taking action and doing things in our lives and then, in our bigger communities as well. So those are a couple of really common themes that are life-changing when we redesign them.
Wow. As you just share those two, I'm like, right here. That's me. That's definitely something that I experience quite a bit as I show up in the world, right? It helped me quite a bit. Because it is tough for people to show up, to take up space, to make an impact if what's holding them back is this imposter syndrome and perfectionism. But those two, I'm sure a lot of our audience can relate. That is often what they feel as they show up, as they go on this wealth building journey. So I love that you shared that. I want to switch into talking about how you build this company into the top 2% company from home. Tell us more about this building journey. And then also talk to us as CEO of this company. What do you focus on as your company is growing?
So I started out as a health coach and I was good at it and I was good at building the company and I was good at what I did. And so I became a business coach for health coaches. I helped over 400 health coaches to build their practices. And once I had my own eating disorder, I no longer felt in integrity with what I was doing. And so I made a big shift and we created the She Center. And what we know is that most problems in the world, the root cause of them is the missing influence of women. Women in their wisdom and their leadership and their incredible contributions.
Wow.
And so we're really here to restore that influence. And a big thing that holds a lot of women back is their relationship with food and their bodies and eating. So UNC Chapel Hill found that 3 out of 4 women struggle with disordered eating. So we started out because we knew exactly how to end disordered eating. And that can be from bulimia, binge eating, to overeating in the evenings so you're not getting to your goals. Like there's a big range of what that is, but it's going to hold you back anytime that you have that feeling of regret after you eat. So we started out with helping people to end eating disorders. And we still have an incredible Empower program that is about ending that. It's the most effective in the world.
Wow.
And what we found is that when women came to us and ended their eating disorder in a matter of weeks, they're like, this is the most effective thing I've ever done in my life. Like, what else does this apply to? And so from there, because we had so many high achieving, successful women, we created Rise, our executive coaching branch. And then we started speaking and doing training for organizations like the US Army. And it expanded from there because the core principles, they work. They work for habit change. They work for our relationship with ourselves and others. We talk about centering yourself, centering your sphere, and centering your world.
Yeah.
So it really was the guiding North Star of how can we help people best, and to just keep on doing that, to keep on following that, and to overcome the fear. Like, as we know, any of us who are business owners, we're usually the bottleneck of our own success and our own growth and our own business. And so here is what actually makes the biggest difference. And that is being able to match your identity with your goals. You have an identity right now that matches what you have right now. Yep. That's the way that it goes. You probably heard the studies about someone wins the lottery, they get $1 million, they're in poverty, even worse in the next year, because they didn't have an identity of a millionaire. They still had a poverty identity, so their circumstances match that very quickly. This is well studied. And that is what kept on pulling our mission forward, is the principles of being able to continually transform our own identities into being a match with our goals. And that was actually the thing that made the biggest difference. Everything else is just sort of like, all right, let's figure out how that all sorts out. But yeah, it always feels a little scary to do that, but it's very effective.
I think a lot of us, when we build businesses, when we grow wealth, we focus a lot on the strategies, the how to. But what you just mentioned there, Lydia, the identity is the most important piece that will pull you forward instead of getting stuck in where you're at. If you're not identifying yourself as someone who is deserving of wealth, you will always be stuck in this poverty cycle. So I love that you brought that up. I think you met your dad as an adult.
Yeah.
Share us a little bit more about that story, about how it felt for you and just how that happened in the first place.
Oh, thank you for asking. This is one of the most beautiful experiences of my whole life. And because I grew up in a cult, I was always told to fear my dad, that if I ever met him, he would kill me. So I was really viscerally afraid of my dad.
Wow.
And as an adult, when I found out that everything that I had been told was made up and not true, I started waking up to, number one, the story is not true. So it's not that he's been chasing me to try to murder me my whole life. It's that he's never given up looking for his kids. And two, looking at my daughter as a toddler and being like, if someone took her away, if someone kidnapped her, what would I not do to try to find her? And I started having this empathy for my dad in a way that I'd never had in my life, especially knowing that what I'd believed was a lie. And so this is a really good example of when we intellectually know something versus how we viscerally feel about it. Because intellectually, I knew it was safe to reach out to my dad. Viscerally, I felt so much incredible fear. So I emailed my dad. I reached out to him, and the first time in my life, I found an old email from some old documents, and I was like, I hope this still works. And I got an email back that was so beautiful. It was just like, is this my daughter? Is it really you? This is the best day of my life. And I didn't know this person, but I felt his love of like, he's been looking for me my whole life. After some correspondence back and forth, I wanted to meet him because I wanted that in my life. Like I wanted to see who my dad was. Like I knew I was half white and then half something that was Asian that my mother always told me wasn't Chinese because my dad lied about everything and he said he was Chinese. So I had no idea what my lineage was. All of these things became important to me. So we found a time to meet. He had just moved back to the United States from Taiwan like a month before I emailed him. And we were living only like 5 hours away from each other. So we drove to meet at this random Starbucks inside a grocery store in Asheville, North Carolina that I had like never been to before because it was just like this halfway point. I walk in and I see the back of my dad's head as I walk in, and he turns around and our eyes meet. For the first time in my life, I see someone that looks like me.
Oh my gosh. Lydia.
Like I was raised in Utah. I didn't see another Asian person until I was in high school and went to a bigger city. Like I had never seen someone that looked like me. And we both just broke out into tears and hugged. And he had been looking for me for 25 years. He'd never given up. Wow. He was there with his now wife. And he pulls this picture out of his wallet that's like this crumpled and worn and torn picture. And it's a picture of my brother and I as little kids. And his wife was like, he has looked at this picture every single day for 25 years. He has never given up looking for you. And to know that I had a loving parent all this time and that I was finally meeting him. And then I found out that I had a little sister and he found out that I had a daughter and they were the same age. And so like my little sister and my daughter have been like best friends ever since. It's a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful. I had goosebumps listening to that and like I'm about to cry because I'm so happy for you and I'm so happy that you guys got this reunion. And I think I saw that you guys are writing a book together. Tell us more about that.
Oh, yeah, this is a big thing. I didn't share my story for the longest time, but to like honor my dad's journey, I wanted to tell his story and be honest and real about my story. It's written. It's going to be out soon, probably by the time that everyone's hearing this. It's a double memoir.
Wow.
So it's called Split, and it's a double memoir with my experience growing up in the cult that my grandmother created and my dad's journey of growing up in Taiwan and looking for his kids for 25 years. And it tells both of our stories in a really beautiful way. So that double memoir Split is going to be out soon. And that's the deep dive into a bizarre story with a beautiful ending.
We're gonna get to a section of our podcast episode when I always want to ask the guests a random question that got left behind by previous guests. So Lydia, your question is, where did you find mentors or key people that help guide you along the way in your journey?
This is so, so important. I have a belief that when we decide we are ready to take our lives to the next level, to accomplish our goals, like when we really draw that line in the sand, I believe that mentors find us.
Love it.
And that has happened over and over in my health coaching business where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this and we're going to go big and we're going to help a lot of people. Then I literally had a mentor reach out that had been doing the same sort of thing. And she became a mentor when I decided to take a huge financial and career risk and leave behind my health coaching and start my own business and found the She Center and believe in that mission and not know how I was going to financially support my family because I was doing something so incredibly new. I, to this day, do not know even how I found that mentor. I couldn't trace it back. So these mentors have really shown up in a way where it was like our individual readiness creates and attracts those mentors. And I don't think there's quite a formula to it. I think it's about who we're being and who comes into our life because of that.
Yes, I love that. I can fully agree with that. Your subconscious brain was looking for that for you.
Right?
You were saying you're ready. This is what I'm looking for. And your subconscious brain, what was it? 11 million, right?
A second.
Was like,
yep.
I got you. I gotta find you. So that's the key. Getting yourself ready and your subconscious brain will do the work for you. I love that. Every episode, we always want to ask our speaker to share a charity or cause that is close to their heart. You have shared so much with us today. You have added so much value to us, and we would love to support your charity on your behalf. So please share with us who we can support.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've read The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. It's a fantastic book, and that really shifted my mentality. We've always been a company that's about earning to give. So we've always given very heavily. And one of the most beautiful causes that we've found so far is in the Melinda Gates Foundation. It's the Education and Empowerment Fund. It helps women and children around the world in very effective ways. If people go to our website, the shecenter.org, at the top where it says mission, we have listed what charities we've given to, what our mentality is on our philanthropic efforts. And so if anyone is wondering more about that, we have it listed there at the shecenter.org. But we love what the Melinda Gates Foundation is doing.
Love it. And Lydia, please share with us how people can get in touch with you, find more about what you're doing, find more about the programs that you are sharing so that they can get in touch.
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to the shecenter.org/podcast. And we actually have a great vault of resources, which are some of our very best, most current fun goodies. And it gets updated as well.
Love it.
So by the time you're listening, we're probably going to have our app launched. It's a free app with a whole bunch of incredible content. We have our books there. We've got great programs. We've got upcoming events. So really fun stuff there.
Amazing. And we'll put that in the show notes as well if you guys need the link. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Lydia. It's been incredible listening to your story and your journey, and I really look forward to reading your double memoir and keeping in touch and seeing how you grow your company. Thank you so much. Bye.